It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's today and do yourself right with some fast-paced racing. Also, race season just around the corner. A couple of tracks have already had their season openers. Eagle was supposed to have theirs last night. They canceled it early during the middle of last week. But if you're still getting your car ready to go, you can give Buddy a call today at Joe's Karting for the parts and tire store, and you can get taken care of. The great thing about them, they're going to be open up past regular business hours, so they'll be open up at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, on up until about 10 or 11 o'clock, depending on the day of the week.
And I heard he's hired some pretty decent help over there. I know I saw on Facebook Tracy Weber's going to work for him. So,
Good.
Tracy's been around the court for a while, so
Yeah.
he'd be able to know what you're calling up talk about when you get over there. There's a lot of everybody knows that hassle. You call the parts store and you ask for a trailing arm and you get over there and get some blink fluid.
Yep. Yep. Tracy's gonna be able to help you out great. joeskarting.com for more information on all that stuff. Big show lined up for you today. We'll recap today's Monday's race at Martinsville. We'll talk about the Logan Hill Climb, maybe cover a couple of NASCAR news and notes. That's all in turn number one. Anthony Ainsle from the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series is going to join us in turn number two to preview his season. And then the interview we promised you guys last week with Chantel and Mariah Bade, we're going to get to it this weekend during turn number three to preview their 2018 season. And then Chad Robb of FantasyRacingTips.com joins us in turn number four. 6 races down in a 36-race schedule. We're at our first scheduled break of the year, and figured it'd be a good time to get Chad in here to talk about what's going on with the fantasy, some of our surprises, kind of recap the first 6 races of the 2018 season.
A lot to recap.
Absolutely, a lot to recap, so we'll talk to Chad in turn number 4 about all of that. Speaking of Chad and FantasyRacingTips.com, Chad's been nice enough to give us another full season membership to his website, FantasyRacingTips.com, for one of our great listeners. So if you happen to be plagued back in the lower 60s like I am for the season-long Pick'ems contest presented by Rick Haven Ridge of Wealth Partners, then maybe you need to call in right now, 402-573-0590. First person to call in. You don't have to answer a trivia question. You just have to call in. First one to do so at 402-573-0590. You're going to win a full year's membership to FantasyRacingTips.com. That's the website for Chad Robb, our fantasy expert for NASCAR racing. Again, 402-573-0590, FantasyRacingTips.com. Full year membership to the first person that calls in. All right, let's take a look at what happened at Martinsville. Dirk?
It snowed. That's
snowed.
What happened at Martinsville.
Tis the season, because it is March, and you never really do know what you're going to get in March, but I don't think many people would have put money in the bank that there would have been a snow out in March down in Martinsville, in Virginia.
Yeah, I've been there several times where there's been tons of rain, so moisture there for this race is nothing new, but the snow was a little bit different. But one of those goofy cold fronts that we've had this winter went through there. I think they had a Atlanta race here in the last 10 years or so that snowed out, if I remember correctly. But those are the only 2 I think of right off the top of my head.
Yeah, they were talking about the last time that a race had been snowed out was the Atlanta race. I can't remember the exact number. I thought, like you said, it was 93 or something like that, maybe 98.
I was going to say later 90s, I think, so 20 years ago. I said 10, but yeah, it did happen, and it snowed a bunch.
Not only did the truck race not get finished, but the cup race didn't happen, so we got a surprise doubleheader. I liked the truck race a little bit more than I liked the cup race, because I think the cup race threw me for a little bit of a loop. I didn't expect it to be that much of a green flag race.
Well, I blame the whole thing on Michael Waltrip with precipitation, because I was reading early before they started any of the practices or anything on Saturday before the truck qualifying and the truck race. They said, well, it's probably going to rain and they'll probably cancel everything, but they got 2 cup practices in, they got truck qualifying in, and we're into the truck race. And as they're starting the truck race, Michael Waltrip said, NASCAR 3, Mother Nature 0. That lasted, 24 laps, whatever it was.
You never tempt fate like that. Never tempt fate. Never tempt Mother Nature like that.
He's lucky a tornado didn't hit the booth.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was interesting. I like the doubleheader. I don't think it's something that we probably want to experiment with much, but I think that was probably a good change of pace for a lot of fans. They could probably use their Cup ticket to get in and watch the Truck Series race, hang out for 2 hours, and then watch the Cup Series race.
Well, and they got lucky in the fact that it wasn't an Xfinity race where, 8, 10, or 12 of the Cup drivers would have been having to pull double duty.
Yep.
Because that would make for a long day, especially with two different type cars.
So I mentioned that it was a little bit of an odd Martinsville. Typically, there is a little bit more chrome horn used. There's more guys getting pushed out of the way, sliding up, getting into the rubber, getting into the wall, and we see a lot more cautions. But other than the end of the stages, there was only 2 cautions. There was a competition caution, and then when Jamie McMurray got spun around.
Well, everybody was on their best behavior with the weather. They were taking a little bit easier. The track was cold when they started the race, so they knew they weren't going to have to worry about work with that. So they got competition caution. They kept.
I was just really surprised because it wasn't like there was weather in the forecast, so they weren't pushing hard because of that to get as much while they could. It was a clear no moisture coming the rest of that day. I was just surprised to see everybody on their best behavior. I mean, I thought we'd see a little bit more push.
Well, the couple fast cars that were really fast were starting in the front of the field, even though they lined up by owner points. Most of the guys that were fast were still up in that top 10 because they've been fast all year. So there wasn't a whole lot of need bounce too many guys out of the way.
True.
You saw a little bit of it, but it was just some simple nudging, and then you saw some brake checking to get back at that little bit of nudging.
Bad days for our friends over at Starcom Racing. They were having a decent day in that 00 car driven by Landon Castle, but a rear end gear ended them early at 211 laps completed on the day. They were the only car that finished in the garage, although Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who qualified to start 17th, again, because of owner points, had to shift to the rear of the field because of switch it to a backup car. He ended up finishing 37th. Also a bad day for Darrell Wallace Jr., who finished 34th. Austin Dillon, the Daytona 500 winner, finishing 30th. Jamie McMurray, who we mentioned before, was one of only 2 cautions that were brought out that day, for finished 26th. But other than that, your top 10 rolls out like this. Brad Keselowski sitting in 10th, Chase Elliott 9th, A.J. Allmendinger 8th, Alex Bowman 7th, and Joey Logano 6th. Good days for Bowman, Allmendinger, and Elliott. 3 guys that Elliott you expect because he's a little bit better at Martinsville, but Bowman and Allmendinger, I didn't. I was hoping to see those guys up there, but I never put my money that they will be.
Yeah, I could have pretty much predicted AJ would have been in the top 10. I wouldn't have thought about Bowman because the Hendrick camp just hasn't performed yet this year. So to get some Hendrick cars running up toward front, I mean, Jimmy Johnson was up there in the top 10 a little bit. He had kind of a back and forth day. He'd go back a bunch and then he'd come back through there. But Bowman, kind of carried the flag. Chase Elliott was up there in the top 10 also.
Yep.
So, you had a couple Hendrick cars that finally formed, but maybe the aerodynamics aren't quite where they want them on that Camaro yet, where this track wasn't aero dependent at all. So, I guess we were talking a little bit off air that Texas is going to be a test for this Hendrick team.
Right. Kevin Harvick finished top 10, and Martin Truex Jr. 4th, Ryan Blaney 3rd, Kyle Busch 2nd, and Clint Bowyer ends up getting a very, very popular win, snapping a 190 race winless streak, and we talked about it before recording the show. I was surprised this is only his 9th Cup Series win. I figured he would be upper teens to early 20s. Well, but he's had some struggles with his organizations, and hopefully those are all behind him. He can start knocking down those wins.
He's taken basically 6 years in between wins. So that's going to keep your win total down a little bit. But from what I read, you would have thought he was sponsored by a beer company with the party he threw afterwards.
He was pretty drunk in the media center just for his post-race press conference for being the race winner. He was already pretty drunk, and that was only 20-25 minutes after he took the checkered flag.
Yeah. Part of that was fatigue.
Great day for Ryan Blaney. He really looked like he had a car to contend. Finished 3rd in Stage 1. He won Stage 2, racked up 52 points. I think he might be one of those guys you want to consider at Bristol, but definitely want to consider for the Pick'ems contest when you roll back to Martinsville later this fall.
Yeah, and the one thing that the young driver, and again, he's only in his 3rd season, so he is a young driver, but But he probably didn't ask for any changes there at the end of the race that maybe he should have asked for, because the car is going to do this, the track, as the sun goes down and everything happens. And because he was very fast in the middle of the race, very fast. And then, the last part, he just didn't quite have what he needed.
So Clint Boyer ends up getting the win. He finished 5th in Stage 1, 2nd in Stage 2, and picks up the win. He is the biggest points getter of the day with 55 points. Great win for him, starting 9th. I think that was one of those, he definitely, with the lack of cautions, you can't take that win away from him. You can't say it was a strategy. You can't say it was a rain, anything like that. He simply moved his way through the field nice and methodically, had a couple of issues on pit road, was able to recover from them, and ended up getting the win, and a dominant win at that.
And a good win for the sport. Clint's liked in the garage. He's liked over at Dan Taylor's house. So he's in a Stewart Haas car.
When you got a personality like that, it's because of that. That's an automatic, but yeah.
He took over for Tony, and but no, he's always been well liked in the garage. And I
think he gave the NASCAR media and us plenty of sound bites for the next decade.
Oh, I'm sure.
With everything that it was, NASCAR's been posting all week long little clips of his press conference, and they're doing a good job of that. He's such a colorful guy.
Yeah, and the best part about him is he owns a couple of dirt track teams. You know, he owns a couple of Lucas Oil teams, so he's given back to the sport. That's always good to see.
Well, we got a couple of minutes left in turn number 1. News that came down earlier this week: Kurt Busch expected to return to Stewart Haas Racing. I'm a little bit surprised at the optimism behind this article that came out talking about how he is likely to be signed as the driver for the 41 in 2019. You remember back last year, it was a long, drawn-out process to where it seemed like the writing was on the wall that Kurt wasn't going to return to that 41. And then all of a sudden, within a 2 or 3 week window, the news started coming that things were getting more likely, and then he re-signed. I figured that was going to finish out his contract with Stewart Haas Racing with a 1-year deal, and then we were going to see Cole Custer in that car for the 2019 season, but it seems to be going the other way now.
Yep, it certainly looks that way, and I think part of that might be the fact that Cole Custer's not lighting the world on fire in that Xfinity car, so that might, they might be thinking he might need another year or two down there before they move him on up.
Monster Energy, we talked about it last weekend, seems even closer now to be signing with only 8 months left in their current contract with NASCAR as the premier sponsor of the Premier League, the Cup Series. Monster seems to be getting ready to re-sign with them. No word on details of that deal, if it's going to be for the optional 3rd year or if they're going to extend it for multiple years to come. But good to hear that kind of news. And PNC Bank signed as NASCAR's official bank, and more details will be coming on that deal. They've signed a 5-year agreement with NASCAR, and that could include sponsoring some of the races throughout the 2018 and on years.
Yeah, in all honesty, I'd rather see them sponsoring cars, sponsoring races. But and I'm sure NASCAR works something of that in there. And if you sit and think about it, NASCAR's probably got a couple hundred corporate credit cards out there that are all going to be switched over to PNC Bank.
Yeah, it's a profitable thing for him. I give Joe Koziski credit. He's done a fantastic job with Malvern Bank in the Super Late Model Series, but he's done a great job with, in this world, and it doesn't have anything to do with today, but in order for a partnership to work, Malvern Bank's got to make some money and the Malvern Bank Super Late Model off those drivers a little bit, and I think they've done a great job of supporting the businesses that support them. So you're absolutely right. PNC Bank will probably get enough business off of that to justify the sponsorships.
Well, that's something that, back in the 80s and 90s, it was really huge, and they talk about it just about every week during the race when it was on, and back then they weren't all on, but they would talk about how NASCAR fans are some of the most loyal, and that's why companies want to get in and sponsor the cars, because they know that people are going to go out. You go to a NASCAR race, and back then you had Miller Beer and you had Bud Beer, and you went to the NASCAR race. You didn't see anything else. That's all you saw.
I'll admit to you, as soon as I saw that headline come across, I went over to PNC's website and I checked to see if I could get a little bit better truck rate, homeowner's rate, or a credit card rate, and see if I couldn't get a little bit better deals with them. And I'll probably move some of my debt over to them.
Yeah, and again, having them, I don't think they're here locally, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so that's, I like to bank locally, so, not that I got a bunch of money in the bank, but, if I do any switching here anytime soon, it'll be to go over to see Mr. Burdick over at Malvern. Yep.
Help out the ones that are helping out our sport. And there was some conversation on Facebook about that you kind of mentioned it. You'd like to see it on cars a little bit more. And I loved your comment to somebody said NASCAR is going to be gone in 5 years. And your comment was, excuse me, that's probably the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Some people just love to attack, but I have no problem with NASCAR's got to go find their own sponsors. And, at some point in time, NASCAR, while they're obviously willing to help the teams with, they said they're trying to find sponsorship for Bubba Wallace, and they were trying to find some for Danica Patrick so she can continue to run full time. They've helped out some of these sponsors. I mean, there's a car being sponsored by Go Bowling this weekend. Go Bowling is a NASCAR sponsor. They're the ones, they signed with NASCAR, and NASCAR is giving that sponsorship dollars to, oh, look at that, it's Stewart Haas Racing and the number 10 for Eric Almirola. So they do help out the smaller teams every once in a while, but the overall message here I'm trying to explain is...
The number 10 is one of the smaller teams? Did I miss something there?
I guess it needed a sponsor, but NASCAR's every once in a while, they got to take care of themselves, because if they don't have the proper funding to be able to run, then none of the teams having sponsorship matters,
Well, they won't be around. I mean...
Right, that's what I was saying, yeah.
The teams are so big, and I mean, the sport, literally, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about it. You see 37 cars showed up for the race. That's, $37 million probably if you just do it the easy math and, figure that kind of stuff out, in nice round big numbers. And this week they had 38 cars because they were closer to home, so there wasn't traveling to California or to Phoenix. I haven't seen an entry list yet, but I'm going to guess it's probably going to drop back down to 37 cars for Texas. But coming up, we've got Bristol, which is close to North Carolina. You'll probably see an extra car or two there. You'll see an extra car or two at Richmond, because they don't have traveling. The real small team can't afford big travel
That
bills.
Travel expense is ridiculous.
Because
there's nothing you can do about it. It's a part of the sport, and so they hit the races close to home. It's no different than a local guy living in Omaha that only races the Malvern Bank Series when it's at I-80 or the one time it hits Eagle. Maybe they travel over to Adams County once, but they don't go down into Missouri during those long travel ones or up into South Dakota. They stay closer to home because they just can't afford to make that haul.
It's just the budget. You start, figuring you've got a hauler that's got to drive cars across the country. You've got to get your crew out there. It'd be different if you take your crew and send them on a Greyhound bus on Wednesday and tell them to, head out there. But, more than likely you're trying to rent some seats on a chartered plane with 6 other teams or whatever trying to get out there, or you're just going to fly them commercially. Fly across the country is going to be $400 a person. It just adds up so quick that, they could race close to home and they can spend that $10,000 on a tire bill.
Right, absolutely. Before we take a break, though, we want to talk about the Logan Hill Climb. It was set to be, March 25th was the original date.
Yes, that's correct.
Because of some
weather,
the weather we've had lately,
Mother Nature,
they moved it to this next coming Sunday, April 8th. That's in Logan, Iowa. Search Logan Hill Climb for more information on that. And we're going to be talking with Jim Howe and a couple of other people next weekend to get more information on what those hill climbs are. I thought it was kind of hokey the first time I saw it, but now that I'm kind of looking into it a little bit more, I think it might be something that I would actually go and do.
Well, like I said, you and I have talked about maybe trying to get up there next week and see what's going on. Yep. But
let me clarify.
That's a whole week away.
I wouldn't do the hill climb. I would go watch the hill climb.
Why? You don't think the Colorado could make it up that hill?
I wouldn't have any problem doing it in the Colorado because that'd be a little more safe. But we know how accident prone I can be and how I could break a hand changing a light bulb. So
how about we get you up the top of the hill and send you down the hill in a 10-speed? How about that?
That I've done before. That I can survive. Well, no, I probably wouldn't survive that either.
You still got to have the helmet.
I'm gonna go watch. I'm gonna grab a couple sandwiches, maybe a 6-pack of beer, a chair, and sit down and watch me some hill climbing next weekend. Logan Hill Climb. Just search on Facebook or do a Google search for it, or go find Jim Howe. He's been posting a bunch of it on his Facebook page in the Tuffy Auto Center in Bellevue.
Find roadkill. But can I give you one tip about this whole deal?
Yeah.
Don't set up right behind them.
Yep.
Those rocks fly a long ways.
Yeah, and they hurt. They hurt much bad. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. Anthony Ainsle just going to join us in turn number 2 to preview the Malvern Bank Series for 2018. We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
This This week's young gun on the front stretch is 24-year-old sport compact driver Nicholas Stover. Nicholas doesn't come from a long background of dirt track drivers. In fact, he's the first Stover to compete at a dirt track. Nicholas is about to start his third season in dirt track racing with the support of his great family, friends, and of course, Josie Bomar. Nicholas is hoping to build off the success he had last year, finishing second in the points at Crawford County Speedway. While winning a track championship at Crawford County Speedway or Shelby County Speedway would be great, Nicholas is more focused on making sure he's having fun each and every time he hits the racetrack. Someday he hopes to compete at the Boone Super Nationals and would love the opportunity to drive a super late model, but for now, he's focused on beating his great friends Alex Davis and Colton Point. Keep your eye out for this week's young gun, Nicholas Stover, behind the wheel of the number 62 Team Ford Collision Lost Wages Sport Compact at a dirt track near you. Thanks to I-80 Speedway for supporting this week's young gun on the front stretch.
The 2018 season is just around the corner for I-80 Speedway. The Go 50 and Silver Dollar Nationals featuring the Lucas Oil Late Models, Charlie Clark Memorial, Midwest Fall Brawl, I-80 Dirt Classic, and of course the best weekly racing featuring 7 NASCAR classes. I-80Speedway.com for race dates and tickets. Lock up your season passes by calling Lee at 342-3453. We'll see you April 6th for the Spring Meltdown featuring the Nebraska 360s and the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 2, and it's time to preview the 2018 Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series on here on the front stretch. And joining us in the studio is the voice of the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series, none other than Anthony Ainsle. How you doing, bud?
We're just glad to be back out here and just itching to get back out to the racetrack.
Yeah, it's been a long off season, but we can thankfully say as of this coming Friday and Saturday, at least for I-80, that off season will be over with. A couple of other tracks have already gotten their specials in, so a couple of these drivers have already gotten to shake down their cars just a little bit. But coming up this Friday and Saturday for the Spring Meltdown at I-80 Speedway, it's going to be kind of a guessing game for a lot of these guys.
Absolutely. And of course, this weekend at I-80, the two-day Spring Meltdown deal, this is going to be a lot of these drivers' first time to get out onto the racetrack for the 2018 season. We've got a long road ahead of us. Of course, the Malvern Bank Series alone, 19 races throughout the 2018 season, and those 19 races are, of course, part of the 41 race schedule for the Gales Gold Rush Late Model Series. So a lot of these guys will be running I-80 on a weekly basis, as well as Adams County on top of the Malvern Bank Series to hopefully get a little bit more of that extra prize money that this Gales Gold Rush deal has got going.
What a great year the Malvern Bank put on for the fans in 2017, watching Tad Pospischel win the championship, but then you also had Kyle Burke that was hot on his tail despite the opening season issues they had. Corey Zeitner was there at times. Corey Dumpert was strong at times. Andrew Kaziski, I think Brian Kaziski even picked up a couple of wins. What's changed in the offseason, if anything, that fans are going to see differently coming out to the track this coming weekend?
Well, you'll definitely see a lot of our regular competitors come back. Kyle Burke will be coming back looking to regain his championship title. Of course, be on the lookout for Bill Layton Jr., Ben Schaller, and Matt Buller. I believe this is going to be his fourth season already. I think his fourth season already behind the wheel of a super late model. Still looking for that first career win behind the wheel of the super late model. But as it comes to driver changes, of course, it was made at the end of last season that Jesse Sobbing called it a career. That was a very sad thing that we had to see one of the best wheelmen in the heartland, in my opinion, hang it up. A series of back injuries, caught up to the crazy one, and unfortunately had to retire at the end of the season.
I think he's going to be the only driver to tell me that he's done at the end of the season that's actually going to follow through with it. Yeah. Now, whether that lasts for a year, 2 years, or 3 years, we'll probably see him in something when that back gets a little more stable, but for the time being, it sounds like he is done.
Luke J. Cochran, his car owner, he's told me there were times when Jesse's had to maybe have some assistance even just to get out of the car. He took his time to get out, and that's always a telltale sign of something going awry. But where Sobbing drops off the series, the Malvern Bank Series does get a new full-time competitor. He's a familiar face in the super late model world. He actually has won with the Malvern Bank Series, but this will be his first full season with the series. Justin Zeitner is going to be joining the Malvern Banks series, and he's got some big honors going for him through this offseason. He's teamed up with Garrison Racing Technologies, Team GRT, and I don't know if this is a first or not, I think possibly for the first time in the Malvern Banks Series history, a chassis house car is going to be on the tour full time, and Justin Zeitner is going to be running the GRT house car on the Malvern Bank Tour full time. It should be fun. I mean, Justin ran a couple of races with us last year, did really well. I believe just about won the Midwest Fall Brawl last season, and of course his only win with the series, he drove his father Leon's car at the Malvern Banks Series debut at Lakeside Speedway, and fortunately for him, Lakeside is back on the tour, and on my birthday, no less. So Justin Zeitner is going to be fun to watch. I'm interested to see where this team goes.
What a birthday present for you.
Absolutely, and then we're back at Adams County the very next night.
Talking about a couple other people, I heard that Amanda O'Neill, she's going to be sidelined with pregnancy for a majority of the year, and somebody's filling in for her on her car, right?
I haven't quite gotten the confirmation on who's going to be the other driver on the 2A, but it was great to have Amanda out there. She continued to improve as the season wore on. She ran a lot at I-80 during the weekly racing program, and of course ran the entire Malvern Banks Series tour. It was fun to see Amanda and Vic Lovejoy, that two-car operation based out of the Council Bluffs, Audubon area, to run the series full-time. And hopefully Amanda has a healthy pregnancy, and can't wait to see the new young racer, hopefully, in the next few months.
Well, the big question is she going to have a tire changer or a merch salesman? I mean, that's kind of the difference. I mean, I don't mean to be sexist.
Do they get promoted to driver eventually? I don't know. I mean, you look at Corey Zeitner. Already got to announce one of his daughter's races, and O'Mallory is starting into cage karts. So future looks bright in racing.
Before you know it, you're going to be talking about Stan Caesar, and you're going to be calling races for a third-generation driver.
Sheesh,
and you're going to say, "I remember when your grandpa was taking laps."
Yeah, it's getting to where, I mean, I remember back when I was young, I used to go to I-80 every Sunday night, watch Joe and Steve out there every Sunday night, and now I'm working for them and announcing their boys' races. It's small world.
Another one I heard was joining the ranks of the Malvern Banks Super Late Model Series was going to be Jake Bridge. Picked up a Super Late Model this offseason.
Yeah, he talked to me a little bit during the I-80 Speedway Banquet and said we're going to possibly experiment a little bit with the super late models and see how many races they can fit into that schedule, and I'm really looking forward to it. Jake has always been a tough competitor in the Grand National bragging rights late model deals. He's got a couple of wins over at I-80, has a couple over at Junction Motor Speedway as well. So I'm interested to see where this late model group goes through, and they continue to look better and better with every season, and it should be fun to get the 83 out there whenever we can.
And definitely a party in the pits. I always enjoy going down and talking to those guys after the races are over with.
Especially when they bring all of Waverly with them.
Yeah. All right, well, we talked about a couple of the guys that are going to be joining the ranks, and maybe a couple of them that have been sidelined for various reasons. But the 2018 season is going to kick off a little bit differently than the 2017 season. Last year, the first race of the season for you guys was at Crawford County Speedway.
I believe for the first time in 3 years that the Malvern Banks Series will start in Nebraska. I believe the last 2 seasons, we started the season out at Crawford County, out at Denison and the Crawford County Fairgrounds. And make no mistake, to all of the fans out at Denison, Iowa, we'll be out there first weekend of May, just like we have the last 2 years. It's just that Crawford's going to be the third race on the schedule instead of the first, and that's going to be a big 2-day weekend. May 4th, we'll be out at Crawford County. It's going to be first of 6 trips to Iowa this year, and how do we follow that up? We head out to South Dakota and Park Jefferson on May 5th.
Most of your races are going to be around $2,000 to win, sometimes about at $1,200. But a lot of great contingency sponsors came on board to try to add a little bit more money to that purse.
Absolutely. We have Hoosier Racing Tire helping us out, and as well as VP Racing Fuels. Of course, we got to thank Speedway Motors for helping us out on all of our heat racing sponsors, as well as Kaiser Manufacturing and as well as Kaziski Auto Parts for
Yep.
a big one as well. They've been helping us out with our heat race sponsorships, and of course we got to thank Jay Burdick and Malvern Bank for all the support they put in through this series. And of course, every time when we go out to Adams County Speedway, those are always big shows because not only is it a lot of our Iowa regulars' home tracks, it's also Malvern Bank's home track. So anytime we head out to the big half mile, it's always a fun show. And of course, to all of our fans out at Corning, we will have the 2 races that we have each and every year, including, I believe, August the 18th. That's going to be a big one. That is the Ray Hoke Memorial to help remember a great promoter out at the Adams County Speedway and honor his memory with some good late model racing.
Couple of races that are going to be back on the schedule this year. Good to see Eagle Raceway back on for that September 9th show.
Nebraska Cup.
And then, man, I cannot imagine how excited you are to get to September 15th.
I know. Chris Krug hinted at this last year. You know, we were in the media press box out at Knoxville Raceway last year for the Lucas Oil Late Model Knoxville Nationals, and Joe confirmed it to me at the the NASCAR Championship watch party last year.
Yep.
Mark your calendars, race fans. Our 6th and final trip to Iowa this year, and it's a big one. September 15th, Knoxville Raceway. The finale for the Lucas Oil Late Model Knoxville Nationals is now on the Malvern Bank Super Late Model schedule. That is going to be huge. I believe it's going to be an invite-only race. There's going to be some points for those involved, and I tell you, I cannot wait to see our guys try to tackle the big half-mile gumbo clay out at the Marion County Fairgrounds.
Joe's been working on that one for a while. I think 3 years is the count that he told me 3 years ago. I'm going to have a race there. I'm working, and he was working hard to get it, and he's finally got it.
But we'll see what happens. I mean, this schedule looks great. I mean, Knoxville, that was the big addition, of course, and then for the first time in 5 years, the series is headed back to the Shelby County Fairgrounds in Harlan, Iowa.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's going to be a big one, yeah. June 9th, like the night after the I-80 Dirt Classic. We'll be out at Harlan, Iowa, the big half mile at the Shelby County Fairgrounds. And not to mention 3 trips to Junction Motor Speedway. You know, McCool Junction's always been a staple on the Malvern Bank Series Tour, and we've always put on great shows out there. And, of course, we have the big 3-day Memorial Day swing. You know, Rock Rapids, Iowa on Friday, Norfolk at Off-Road Speedway on Saturday, and then Raceway Park on that Sunday. That's going to be the big 3-day weekend.
You can get this entire schedule at slmrseries.com or just search Malvern Bank Series in Google and you'll be able to pull up that entire schedule. A lot of great stuff going on with the Malvern Bank Series. I know SSS Motorsports got involved and created the Bill Rick Rookie of the Year Award that is to be I think it's going into its second season of a 5-year deal, correct?
I believe so, and of course, it's a great honor for a lot of these young guys to to get up onto the super late model ranks, make a name for themselves, and maybe come into a little bit of extra money and some extra prizes, and hopefully motivate them to continue running in the super late model ranks, because now is a great time to be a super late model fan here, especially in America's heartland. And with what Joe Kaziski and what Jay Burdick, what everyone has done with this series, I did not expect this kind of, explosion in popularity. You know, we had car counts just going crazy. We'd never went below 25 cars in terms of car counts at any race last year. 25 was the lowest.
I mean, there's local regional series that they can't get 5 to 8 regular cars that come. And
sometimes they'd be lucky to break the 20 count.
And on their point standings, I mean, it's amazing what Malvern Bank is able to do. They'll bring 10 to 15 cars every week. And you're talking about some of these touring series. When you talk about the Lucas Oil, how big of a series it is, but they really only have about 8 to 10 guys that follow it nationally.
About 14 to 15, about there, but that's still.
And when the Malvern Bank shows up, I mean, you talked about it, never went below 25 cars. When the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series shows up, guys show up out of the woodworks, come compete.
Definitely, and also I think we also have the Gales Gold Rush Super Late Model Series to thank for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Malvern Bank Series is part of that, but because of that Gales Gold Rush thing of the deal we have there, we started seeing B main events during the weekly shows in the super late model division at I-80, and that was something we haven't seen the last couple of seasons out there. And then on top of that, it gave Corning a much-needed boost in their late models. They would barely break 10 to 12. That would be a good night on their late model program. Now they're boasting 16 to 18, over 20 cars at their weekly shows, and that was a big shot in the arm that I was hoping that Corning would get. They got it. I-80 got a good bit of it, and so did the Malvern Bank Series. This has benefited all three parties, and like I said before, it is a good time to be a late model fan here in America's heartland.
This coming Saturday and Sunday, April 6th and 7th at I-80 Speedway, the Spring Meltdown. Guys like Burke, Pospischel, Zeitner, Bridge, help me out. I'm
Schaller,
thank
Buller,
you, Kaziski,
two
all the names.
Kaziskis, Bill Layton Jr. We're going to have I don't know how many we're going to get from Iowa. I know hopefully Paul Glendenning will be back with us. Hopefully Jason O'Brien. O'Brien really made a splash. This was his first big season back after an extended hiatus. Picked up about 4 or 5 wins on the Gales Gold Rush deal. Not one with the Malvern Bank Series, but O'Brien will be tough if he decides to show up, and I think he will. And we're going to have an excellent field just like we did last year. Anthony
Ainsle, the voice of the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series. Can't wait to check in with you here in about a month and a half and see how the series is going.
Oh, yeah. It'll be fun, and I'm sure I'll be even more excited than I am right now.
I can only imagine.
Oh, yes.
We'll be back here on the Front Stretch.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Night Race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the Front Stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch. Turn 3 brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Tickets for the May 11th and 12th race weekends are available at 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. Get the weekend passes and go see the Camp and Roll Truck Series, the stars of tomorrow, and then you can come back on Saturday night, go under the lights for the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series race. Again, that's May 11th and 12th. Tickets are available by calling 866-460-RACE or visit kansasspeedway.com. And I think there are a few camping spots still available. If you want to really make a weekend experience out of it, save yourself the money of a hotel room, the travel to and from, and get yourself a camping spot. Just call 866-460-RACE. And again, kansasspeedway.com. Joining us in the studio now is the younger of the Bade sisters. There's 4 of them. 3 of them compete at dirt tracks, and these 2 are hobby stock drivers, talking about Chantel and Mariah Bade. Girls, isn't it so nice to finally be talking about racing again?
Oh, yes. We can't wait to get back out on the track.
It's been way too long of a break.
Yes.
Does it seem like this winter has lasted longer than any other winter in history?
Yes.
I mean,
By
even
far.
that, like, there was like an ice age that happened, but that was just like a month or 2.
Yeah, but it didn't happen every other day for a week.
True.
And then it tricked us, and it got
I
in the
know.
60s, and then we were snowing the next day.
I can't keep talking to people. I don't know if it's because I'm starting to get older now, and I'm, like, I don't know, things always change for you every year you get older, and then I don't know if it's just me being a wimp or if I'm because I'm getting older, but this winter has just been tough.
Well, every year you get another one to compare it to.
Yeah.
That's true. It's been brutal.
Yeah, and I forget about it. I'm ready for 70-degree weather, but it's like it did with this last year. We went from 50 to 80, and we had no spring.
Yep.
So this is we're gonna be complaining about the heat before long. All right, Chantel, you're in the 02.
Yes.
Mariah, you're in the 04.
Correct.
Both of you are hobby stock drivers. You were talking about your paint schemes a little bit while we were off the microphone. Very excited about that.
Oh, yes. It's going to be a big change this year for the 02 car.
It is. I really liked your paint scheme last year. It was that matte gray and then the pink flames.
Yep.
Kind of flares a little bit. I really liked that.
I loved it too. Dad thought we needed a change though, so we switched her up.
Did completely wreck that car.
Yeah.
So a new body paint would be good.
Yeah.
Well, that just means more T-shirt sales when you put the new paint scheme on a new shirt.
That's very true.
That's the only reason why Kobe Bryant switched numbers when he was in the NBA. He needed to sell more jerseys.
Did not know that.
That is literally the only reason why he switched.
Well, that's probably why LeBron did it too.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he switches teams often enough that he can, but
that's why Matt and Carl went from Roush to Joe Gibbs so they could get a different number and sell more shirts.
That's why. It had nothing to do with.
That's why Carl retired. Now his shirts say retired, so he's got a third shirt out there.
We haven't had shirts yet, but I think this year is going to be our year for more merchandise for sure.
Well, you guys
do a combo shirt.
Yeah, you
We'd
guys
like to
did.
do one.
I kind of talked about it last year when we had you in. You were kind of starting to get your own feet in the world, and it's pretty tough because your sister's a really popular driver.
Yes.
And you guys have spent most of your time supporting her, which is nothing wrong with that. It's been probably a great experience for you guys.
Yes, she's definitely taught us a lot about the racing world and everything, but there gets to a point where we got to separate and, like you said, spread our wings and go our own way. And I think this year is both me and Mariah's year to do better things, and then Shaylee will also be doing 360s, and also she'll also be getting better.
Yeah, that's got to be a little bit of an adjustment. You two are going to be at Eagle on Saturday night, and she's not going to be there on a weekly basis anymore.
No, it's going to be a learning curve, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be very
weird.
different for us. We're used to having our whole family there. It's usually a family weekend thing, and it's definitely going to be different.
Yeah.
Well, where's Dad going to be? Is he going to be at Eagle with you guys, or is he going to be with 360 somewhere?
He'll be at Eagle. He actually has a driver for the 305, so he'll be racing every Saturday out at Eagle.
Okay. Good
Is
deal.
it? And is that Alan that's going to be racing that?
No,
Ryan Kitchen will be the new 305 driver.
Well, he'll be a good addition to that car. So you girls have probably got to carry the torch a little bit for the Bades, right?
Oh,
We're
yes.
try to.
Oh, we are.
We're going to do our best.
No pressure or anything. No pressure.
A little bit of pressure.
Okay, a little bit. Pressure's good, though, right?
Yes.
Carry
it
the
is.
torch, don't put it out.
Right, yeah, for sure. Right, we got to keep it lit.
And don't drop the torch while you're running across the track, by the way. Don't do that. Always run across the pit lane and never drop the torch. Anyway, that's an inside joke. If you're
Always run.
Always run.
Oh, dear.
Chantel, plans for this year? Continuing to run weekly in the hobby stock, right?
Yes, I will be out there every Saturday racing, and hopefully we're gonna make it through the season without having a totaled car.
That'd be
Make
good.
it through the full season. That's the goal this year.
Lots of A-mains under our belt, is what we're hoping for.
And that can be very tough. I mean, when you talk about the upper classes like late models and sprint cars, there's a little bit better trust between the drivers because you've inherently got to be a little bit more experienced to be behind the wheel of a sprint car or late model. Hobby stock's a little bit different. It's kind of it's a feeder class, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's a great class of learning, but you're going to get dinged up a little bit.
Yep. We're hoping our years of being dinged up pretty bad are over.
Yeah.
There's also the situation that a late model is a race car. It's racing parts, where a hobby stock is a lot of stock parts, brakes and stuff. When you step on the brakes on a late model, it's going to stop, and it's going to stop very quickly, where the hobby stock is a street car. It's going to take a little bit.
Right.
So that's a big difference too, but that's, again, you're not going near as fast to start with, but still all the dangers there.
It's really a great class to start off in. I'm glad we did hobby stocks and started off in that. I don't think any way else would have been any better.
Yeah. I mean, we've learned a lot, especially with
well,
with this track.
I could see you guys' improvement from last year. I mean, I don't need to be mean about it, but early in the year, it was tough for you guys to finish a race.
Yes.
Late in the year, you may not have been finishing as far up, but you were finishing.
Right.
Yes.
That was our goal the whole year, was just to finish the race. I mean, which sounds like a really tiny goal, and we thought that was in the beginning. We were like, we'll finish. Hopefully by the end of the year we'll be, like top 10. And then you race it and you're like, well, I got 4 laps that time. So, I mean, that was 2 laps more than last time.
Well, there's a lot of things people don't realize that when you start out in a race car, and I mean, you guys, both you had kart experience, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, when people have mentioned like just starting in a B mod or something like that, and they go out and they have a lousy corner or a real good corner, they said they think about it for 3 laps.
Yep.
Man, I can't do that again. And you go right down and you got it in your head, so you do it again. Or, like I said, if you get a good lap, you get 2 or 3 good laps in a row and you start thinking this is so easy.
Yep.
And then you bobble once and then you're doubting yourself. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Sight game is big.
Yeah, and we really didn't know much about hobby stocks. Like
Nobody. I mean,
Dad didn't. Our pit crew,
we set up, we wung it, driving, we went for what we could, and that was really all. I mean, it was a trial and error for the first.
We really learned from.
I crewed a
being at
hobby
point
stock that
0.
hadn't won any races until we crewed for him, and then he won 2 features the first year. I can come down and cheat you guys up a little bit.
Hey, we'll take it.
Any help we can get, we will take it.
Now, be careful what you take him up on. I asked him to co-host one weekend, and now I'm stuck.
That's all right. We'll take you every weekend.
You can't have him every weekend. I got to take him a couple of times to Kansas and Iowa.
Other?
But
Yeah,
that's a fair deal.
You can have him most.
Okay.
I just need him a couple of weeks. Anyways,
We can take that.
we're divvying up divorce rights with the kid now all of a sudden. on the show.
seriously.
You'll get him every 3rd weekend except for... Anyways. And then Mariah, you're in the 04, and it's going to be your 3rd year behind a hobby stock?
Yep, 3rd year. First year we split the year, and then last year I had an intact car all year, so I raced all year last year.
Funny.
And then this year's going to be a little different. I got a tech job at Bryan, and it's weekends, and I absolutely love it, and it's towards my degree because I'm going to do OT, and it's a PTO tech.
Okay, hold on. You threw out a lot of letters there. I don't know what any of them mean.
Okay, sorry. Physical therapy, occupational therapy.
Got it.
I'm going to school to be an occupational therapist, and I just got a weekend job as an occupational therapist / physical therapist technician.
Okay, and so what are you going to be doing? Fixing carpal tunnel?
Not yet.
Okay.
We'll work there.
Okay.
I basically just help them whenever needed, so like lifting assists, or if they're walking a patient and they need someone to walk behind, or if they need any sort of equipment, I'm kind of the go-to. But so I'm going to be balancing between that and racing, and so far I've scheduled it so it's not bad, where I can work Friday, Saturdays, and then I can go straight from work to racing, and then Sundays we can have our shop day. But it just might not be as consistent as last year, where it's every Saturday. I might have to take every other off, or every 3, or it might just turn in my luck and I can work weekdays. I'm not really sure yet, but
So you said you're at Bryan. That's the hospital, correct?
yes, yep,
Yeah.
yep, East and West.
And you guys are planning on racing weekly at Eagle. Have you talked Papa Bade into going anywhere else?
We've tried.
Occasional
I
special?
have tried so hard.
This is
If you only
it's an
knew.
ongoing saga every time I have you guys in.
See, I know that it's not going to go anywhere,
Yeah.
so I just let her.
I'm still fighting pretty
mean-
hard, but I don't know. If he doesn't say yes to the baby, I don't know who's going to talk him
Yeah,
into
I was gonna
it.
say Chantel. It's got to be you that's got him wrapped around her finger.
Yeah, I can
you-
usually get my way pretty easily with him, but
And usually with him, when he says no, it's no. There's no budging. There's no, I'll wait 2 months, I'll wait a year. I mean, it's usually a good,
yeah, we
hard
know
no.
when it's no
Yeah.
to no, but
Yeah.
My,
this time.
my brother and sister both knew that. They knew that if they went to mom and dad and asked for something, it was a no. But if they sent me to go do
Yep.
it,
It
I
was a
could
yes.
usually get the yes out of them.
Oh yes, that's how it goes too.
But a hobby car is not like changing a gear in the sprint car, and you do need a different gear. There's not
different
too many
tracks.
tracks
Correct.
you're going to run the same gear as Eagle.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's so short and high bank, keeps good speed, but you can't run that gear at I-80. Where I-80, you could go from
Yeah.
I-80 to Harlan,
And be
run the
fine.
same gear.
Yep.
And I
But-
think your dad's main concern is that extra speed that I-80 is going to bring if you go and race there.
Yes.
And the fact, I think the biggest fact is that he won't be there. He will be at Eagle every Saturday, and us racing somewhere else without him, without us being like ready to branch on our own completely, I think scares him, which I totally understand.
Yeah, I got to get him in here sometime because I can only imagine. I mean, I fear the day that I'm the father of a daughter because it's just it's going to be bad news bears for everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking like arsenal of guns
Yeah.
and helicopter father and quit looking at my daughter
bit.
and and the whole 9 yards. And he's got four of them to deal with.
Yeah.
And better yet, being being racing girls, because forget it. That's what people have always asked me is, if you have kids, you're going to let them race? Not a chance. Because I've got enough stress in my life. I don't need to worry about them wrecking.
That's already how I feel. I told
our mom.
I told my boyfriend, I was like, they can do remote control racing. That's fine. We can do that every weekend. I will be there. I will support them. So, we can race.
So does your dad have one of those T-shirts that said, I own a gun and a shovel and I'm not afraid of prison?
No. He's very sly. Like, he doesn't come off very, like, dominant. But then, like, secretively, he's got a taser under his shirt or something. Like, he's ready to bounce at any moment.
He's got to conceal.
Oh, yes. But you never know.
Now the next time I come over for an interview at the pit, I'm going to be worried about getting tased.
Yep. Don't look at us wrong.
That's going to be my first one is don't tase me, bro. I'm just here to talk to I'm here for an interview.
Either that or I'll steal race secrets. Just don't tase me.
Just don't tase me. Any specials? What's the first race on the schedule for you girls?
The Icebreaker out at Eagle Raceway, and that will be April 14th.
I believe it's April 14th.
I think you're right.
April 14th.
Because they open and then they take 2 weekends off, and then it's another special in the season opener.
Yep.
Which I was really trying to get, because I know I-80 races before Eagle starts, so I was really trying to get out there a couple weeks in between so we could tweak it and make it perfect for Eagle, but I still haven't gotten a yes from that yet. So,
in all honesty, you wouldn't gain a whole lot from being at I-80 and then going to Eagle to race, except maybe if you found a leak or something like that.
Right.
You know, that would be the only thing you would get from hot lapping between the two
Maybe
tracks.
first race jitters.
Well, that and we have a completely new car this year.
Yeah.
Oh,
different.
Yours is.
Again, outside of it, finding a leak or something, you know, the handling is going to be so much different.
Right.
Completely different track.
That extra experience of the other track you don't think will help or anything?
I mean, a young racer, seat time always helps.
Yeah.
But the setup on the car,
no effect.
Well, it'll have an effect because it's still a race car. Right. It's still going to do certain things. But there's really not, like, I-80's got the flat bottom where, I mean, you can go and it's almost like you're literally on a flat track and then in the bank. Eagle doesn't have that. Eagle's bottom is banked.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
We're all banked,
you know, if you go up there and you run the high part at I-80, the car's going to react different because you're going to be carrying a lot more speed when you go into 1 and 3. So, you know, like I said, it's tough to compare. The only track I think you could run anywhere near here that you could get some good data that would transfer to Eagle would be up at Interstate Speedway, which is up right across the street from Park Jefferson Raceway in Jefferson, South Dakota. It's about 10 miles north of Sioux City, but it is a little bowl just like Eagle.
That's a long haul for a hobby stock.
Yeah, it's like 110 miles up there. And then you guys are from Lincoln. It's 110 miles.
If I can get it, I would.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever I can get.
To work on getting a pit crew this year, too.
And they race on Sunday nights.
If somebody wants to help you guys pick,
they can message either of our racing pages.
Okay. Chantel Bade Racing 02.
Yep, that's me.
And Mariah Bade Racing 04.
Yes.
Pretty easy stuff.
Yep.
So message them there if you guys want to get involved in it. Also, make sure to follow them so that way you can see the latest pictures of the cars before they hit the track. And again, April 14th, that Eagle Open House is playing to be your season opener, right?
Yes.
All right. Goals for the year. Seat time obvious. Are you eyeing a points position? Top 10, top 5?
I just want to keep my car in one piece.
Okay.
That is my goal.
Yeah. Okay.
One piece.
I'd like to finish more A mains. I was very excited. I finished 19th in points. That doesn't sound exciting, but I got a little plaque and I was very excited for it because I missed like 4 or 5 races between all the craziness.
Yeah, you went to South America for a while, didn't you?
I did. I went to Peru for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Yep, so I missed 2 races then.
And what'd you go down there for?
It was a study abroad mission trip for our school. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very interesting. I learned a lot. Very, very
it's
different
eye-opening,
than
isn't
here.
it?
Yeah.
It's really eye-opening when you get into another country. And even just how people react, their everyday life, you really do realize how backwards we are at times.
And the first place we went, I'll probably get it wrong, but I think we went to Lima first, and it was just so everything was gray and it was cloudy, and there were like thousands of people packed into this little place, and it was just, I mean, there were cars everywhere. People just like ran in the middle of the street, and They had a bike festival, and it was like 3 a.m., and all of us were woken up to little bike bells dinging outside in the street. I mean, it was just the weirdest thing.
There is an insane harmony between the automobile and the pedestrian that we don't have in America. I mean,
oh no,
you get run over in America if you run out in front of a car, which is why I run at all times at a track. I fully expect to get run over.
Right.
But they've got this harmony that it's amazing. You sit there and watch it, and they'll miss by inches.
Yeah, it's very fluid. It's just like their water going through it just doesn't make any sense.
It's a beautiful. All right, so anyway, we got a little off track there, but Chantel Bade Racing 02, Mariah Bade Racing 04. You'll see them at Eagle on April 14th for the season opener. Hopefully, you'll see them at other tracks if they can push Papa Bade into adding a couple others on the schedule. But otherwise, great luck this year at Eagle Girls.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in, and we'll be back here on the front stretch.
Thanks for having us.
The 2018 season is just around the corner for I-80 Speedway. The Go 50 and Silver Dollar Nationals featuring the Lucas Oil Late Models, Charlie Clark Memorial, Midwest Fall Brawl, I-80 Dirt Classic, and of course the best weekly racing featuring 7 NASCAR classes. I80Speedway.com for race dates and tickets. Lock up your season passes by calling Lee at 342-3453. We'll see you April 6th for the Spring Meltdown featuring the Nebraska 360s and the Malvern Banks Super Late Model Series.
This May, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled night where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Night Race. Only at Kansas Speedway May 12th. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Just about ready to wrap this baby up, rolling into turn number 4. And for 5-6 weeks, I've been able to catch all the green flag action today on the big screens of Quaker Steak and Lube, but I can't say that today. Instead, you can head down to the official watering hole of the front stretch, Quaker Steak and Lube, and enjoy a lovely Easter dinner. Why slave in the kitchen for hours on end to make an Easter dinner when you could just go down to Quaker Steak and Lube, get a picture with the Easter Bunny, let the kids get a picture with the Easter Bunny, and have a good old time. Let Quaker Steak and Lube do all the cooking.
So why didn't you say enjoy the green grass action? Huh?
Because in Council Bluffs, that could mean a different thing.
Now that would be dry green grass. In oil form.
Joining us in this, medical purposes only, right? Medical purposes only. Joining us in the studio now, the owner of FantasyRacingTips.com, and that is Chad Robb, the guru for NASCAR fantasy and all auto racing. How you doing, bud?
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you back on. We talked to you, what was it, just before the Daytona 500?
Yeah, week before.
Just to kind of get set for that season. And what we knew then, is any of it true for what we know now? I mean, has it all been topsy-turvy? Are we living in the upside-down world?
Well, I expected Chevy to come out slow. I didn't expect him to come out this slow, though. But I expected Toyota to dominate the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. And it really looks like Ford really has the upper hand right now.
Yeah, Chevy with one win at Daytona, and then it's been Ford, Toyota, Ford. So it's been a solid year for Ford already this year. And Dirk, you talked about it too. Last year when Toyota came out with the new body style, it took them about a quarter of the season, maybe about 10, 12 races before they got a handle on that body and were able to really manipulate it to be able to work right in their way. Any idea, guys, what has been this explosion for Ford this year other than Stewart-Haas Racing?
Well, it's their, third or fourth year with car body. Mm-hmm. So obviously anything they've learned, they've got a notebook foot thick.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen your regular list of characters, led by the 4 car, with Ford running up front. The 2's been running up front. Now they kind of got stymied at Daytona. Last year they won all the restrict plates.
Yep.
At Daytona, they looked like they were probably going to win again. There was a bunch of cars in that top 10 that were Fords that all got taken out right towards the end, and you ended up with a Chevy winning. So, but that's the only thing that Chevy can brag about this year. I mean, they just haven't got out of their own way, and the car shouldn't matter that much, the body style that changed, because the underneath part didn't change. It shouldn't have mattered much at Martville or Phoenix.
Right,
So.
and they've struggled there too.
I think it all comes down to the OS, the optical scanning system, the new way of inspecting the cars, because Chevy knew they were coming out with this new car, and they were expecting the old inspection system, so they were expecting to gain some aerodynamics in some areas, but then when the season started, this new inspection system stopped them from doing that. And this whole inspection system came around from Ford, because they said, we're going to get blown away next year if you guys don't change the rules and everything. And so Ford kind of set up for this new inspection system. Chevy was totally caught off, caught by surprise, and I think that's got a lot to do with it.
And we talked about this quite a bit last year and a little bit into this year. I'm still in the camp that I don't think Toyota had that big an advantage, other than the fact that Martin Truex Jr. was driving a Toyota last year. I think the performance that him and Cole Pern had, give him 2 years in a Chevy, 2 years in a Ford. I think he still has the 2017 that he did. They were just on fire last year. They took full advantage of the stage system. They had amazing cars and amazing system, and I think the rest of the field has now caught back up to them. But that's just me.
I think it all changed at Texas last year when Kevin Harvick ran down Truex and passed him at the end of the race. And ever since then, Harvick has been one step ahead of Truex, but those two cars have been the two most dominant cars.
Yeah, and I've really kind of felt like the 78 team has been on their heels this year. They don't really feel like they're attacking like you felt like they were last year. They were constantly up in the front. They were qualifying up front. They were constantly pushing people out of the way, and there was this attitude to the entire team, and I don't know what happened during the off season. Maybe it just wore them down and they're exhausted, but it feels to me like the 78 team is on their heels, being defensive rather than offensive.
Well, one thing they lost was the 77 car.
Yeah,
and believe me, that's a big loss. They could go out in a practice and run 2 setups.
Yeah,
and now they can't do that anymore. Even though technically they've got 5 setups with Gibb cars.
Yeah.
But, I just wonder, after Truex won his championship, I mean, you saw Stuart Haas switch over to Ford and leave the Hendricks organization, basically, after they won a title. And now you've got Martin Truex winning a title, basically, with Joe Gibbs' organization. And I just wonder if, Gibbs is maybe holding a little info back and stuff and not sharing there as much. And they've lost their second car to have, to run not necessarily an R&D car, because, Jones was much better than that. But again, I guarantee you, when the Hendricks cars or the Haas cars or whatever hit track for practice, they've got 4 different setups in the car, and they're tuning from there. And you'll hear it every once in a while. You'll see somebody just lousy in practice, and the best guy that always did it was Matt Kenseth. He would be terrible in practice, and they'd interview him before the race, and he'd go, "Well, we put Billy Bob's setup in here."
We threw Denny's setup, we threw Kyle's setup.
Whatever.
Whoever of his teammate was the best at that track, they threw their setup in the car, and then they worked from there.
And we're very fast.
And I remember hearing something during the broadcast on Monday for the Martinsville race. I want to say it was Bowman took Johnson's setup.
It was William Byram
took
Jimmy Johnson's setup, and pretty much all the Hendrick cars had Jimmy Johnson's setup, because they got 3 young drivers that really haven't turned enough laps at Martinsville to really know what it takes.
It's such an interesting dynamic, and it's something that we've talked about every once in a while. When you have a team organization, it's great to be able to reach out to the one that's winning and be able to take that information and then adapt it to your driver's style if you're the crew chief. Because an Alex Bowman could take a Jimmy Johnson setup, but Alex doesn't drive like Jimmy. He's got a different way he attacks the corner. He's got a different way he gets into the corner, so the setup's going to change just slightly, and that's where the crew chief is critical to be able to understand that.
Well, the only one of those 3 other drivers besides Johnson that's going to drive anywhere close to him is going to be Chase Elliott, because Chase Elliott's dad, is an old school driver, so probably drives a lot like Jimmy Johnson does.
Yeah.
And so that's probably how he's been brought up in a car. But the other guys are totally different. They've never driven a car that didn't have bump stops or any of this stuff. Johnson has. Chase Elliott hasn't either.
Yep.
But, he gets a lot of feedback from his dad and always has, always will.
I want to talk a little bit about Johnson. I think he's been the surprise of the year. We've always,
surprise
for years,
or disappointment?
Both. He's been a surprisingly big disappointment, and I don't think I'm calling anybody out on that. I think that entire team would acknowledge it too. Hendrick Motorsports seems to be struggling, and maybe it's the fact that there's been a changing of the guard where now Jimmy Johnson is the old man in the garage now. It's no longer Jeff Gordon, who'd been there for a long time to be able to help mentor these guys. But that 48 team has been very surprising, and I think we can finally break away from the old, they're just testing different things and trying different things. I think we're officially in, they're struggling.
When Jimmy Johnson can only finish 15th at Martinsville, then there's big problems.
Yep.
Because usually he could take a car that was halfway decent and finish in the top 5, if not win, at Martinsville.
And that bodes, you wonder if it's, there's got to be some contributions to the struggle that Chevy's having with their new body style and being able to find the speed out of that car, on top of the fact that, from what I understand, over the last couple of years, a lot of quality Hendrick employees have been poached by these other organizations.
That's the key. They've just been picked apart. They lost, 2 of their top drivers, Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr., and then crew chiefs.
Yep.
They've lost
shop
other
guys.
Yeah.
A lot of shop guys have been poached and taken to Stewart-Haas Racing's picked away a couple of them. Penske's picked away a couple of them.
Yeah, I think Ganassi's got one of their car engineers.
And that's the important stuff. We talk about it all the time with these dirt track guys, and asphalt guys are no different. Championships are won at the shop. And when you've got a great shop organization, then you are that much farther ahead when you unload on Thursday to get ready for practice and qualifying. And you can tweak the car just a little bit. But if you're making wholesale changes when you roll that car off, you're in big trouble.
And then another thing is that they're moving their shops around down there at Hendricks. If you ever been down there, it's like a university. They got like the campus of 2 cars and then another campus of 2 different cars. Well, now they're moving them all together, put them all on one campus. So, that's got to be slowing them down as well.
I've been thoroughly impressed with Eric Almirola this year. You hold your judgment for a little while. He did well at Daytona. He probably should have won it, but a bumper came in between him and winning the biggest race of his career. But I've been thoroughly impressed. I think that while Stewart-Haas Racing is definitely doing well, I think Eric's taking full advantage of it, where as much as I love the Defender, the previous driver had a tough time taking advantage of a hot streak by the organization.
And I think he might be the key to the success of Stewart-Haas Racing, because in practice, he goes out and tries a bunch of different setups. He never runs well in practice. You look at his practice times, he's always like 15th. And I've heard Harvick talk about it. I heard Kurt Busch talk about it. Almirola is like their guinea pig.
Yeah.
He goes out and tries different stuff. They figure out what works, and then all their cars have the same thing once the race starts.
But you will see him every once in a while in practice. He'll climb up there into the top 5 because he hit the setup.
Yeah,
he found it.
But Danica never did that.
No.
And this is a big plus for them, because now they got somebody that can actually help their team.
Give them some feedback that's actually worth something.
And again, I'm a Danica fan. I think that she did good things for the sport, but the more and more I'm reading into the situations, the more I'm feeling like it was a Stewart-Haas Racing organization and then Danica Patrick. She kind of balled herself on her own little island and did her thing because she wasn't willing to be the guinea pig, as you put it, Chad.
Yeah. And Almirola, he's just really surprising people this year. I never expected him to run this well. I think he'll probably make the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't win a race this year.
I was kind of upset when they announced that he was the driver of the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. I thought that there was better drivers out there to be able to go and take from another organization, to pick up from the Xfinity series and promote them. But they clearly, it's at least 6 races into it. We got a lot of races left to go, but 6 races into the season, 30 races left to go. Things could change drastically, but so far he's impressing.
There were other drivers out there, but there weren't too many with a sponsor deal. Smithfield likes
that's an important thing.
So he came along with money and has filled the seat and done a good job in it. And I don't know what kind of contract. I don't remember if he signed a multi-year deal, but I'd be very surprised if he wasn't signed, because they also announced this week they expect to get Kurt Busch re-signed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a 1-year deal, but I'll have to go back and look at the details on it, because for some reason, it's really really tough to find those details in NASCAR. When somebody signs in football or baseball, you can usually find out the details of it because there's always somebody inside that organization that wants to talk. But these contracts are pretty private. They may talk about the length of it, but they generally don't talk about any other aspect of it.
Have you heard anything on Carl's new contract?
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, he did an interview with Claire B. Lang and said
Dirk's convinced he's coming back.
He's done.
Just wait.
He's on the farm.
He's going to wait until he's a governor or a senator, and then he's going to come back and be the first sitting politician to race.
To
win the Daytona 500.
We've been to speedways, we've been to 2-mile tracks, 1.5-mile tracks, and now a couple of short tracks. And we've got a speedway on the bill coming up next weekend, Sunday, April 8th for Texas. Then we're going short track for a couple of races. Guys, your two opinions, is it going to be status quo? Are we going to continue to see the Harvicks and the Keselowskis, the Hamlins, the Bushes, they're up there battling at those 1.5-mile in short tracks?
I think you will. Usually you'll see a change come after the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. That's when the tracks start changing. They start heating up, get more slick, and other teams start coming into play. But I think all the way through Kansas, Charlotte, I would stick with the Fords, Stewart-Haas Racing, Penske Racing, and then Toyotas.
Well, and I think Texas will be a little bit of a test for Jimmy Johnson. He's done good at track. He won from the back there last year. So, if he's going to maybe show us a little something, this could probably be the next race. They've got a 2-week break. They should go down there very well prepared. And, we'll see what he's got down there. That'll be a real good test for him for the year. Yeah.
I want to back up a little bit. I was talking about Martin Truex Jr. and how they seem to be on the defensive rather than offensive. Well, he's only 8 points out of the lead.
I think he's only got one finish outside the top 5, and that was at Daytona.
Yeah, and I looked back at the stage winning points and playoff paying points, and he's only finished outside of the points twice this season. So there's been 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. There's been 18 opportunities, and he's only finished outside of it twice, which goes for the fact that he has 7 playoff points, and the only person beating him right now is Harvick with 11 playoff points.
And that's because Harvick lost 7 points. So.
Right. Yeah, Harvick could be at 18, but now he's down to 11, still enough to be in the lead for the playoff points is concerned. But, yeah, it's been an interesting season, and I think one that even though we've seen a changing of the guard as far as drivers, we're continuing to see the veterans running up front.
Yeah, and I think you're going to continue to see that. I think the race at Texas is going to be a 3-horse race. It's going to be Kyle Busch. He's finished, I think, second, third in the last 4 races. And then you got Harvick, that's going to be a big-time player, and then Truex. Mm-hmm. If one of those 3, I'll take those 3 drivers and give you the field.
I may take you up on that just to have a little bit of fun. But, yeah, it's been interesting. And I'm kind of surprised. I haven't heard a lot from Kyle Larson this year, where he was very strong middle of the year last year, and then just that whole operation just fell apart midway through the playoffs, and then they were eliminated in the round of 12 at Kansas. I've been really surprised that they haven't been able to bounce back with the offseason and have a stronger beginning of the year.
New car.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the car.
Yeah.
New car.
All right, we'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. Again, big thank you to Chad Robb of FantasyRacingTips.com for coming in, Chantel and Mariah Bade for coming in, and Anthony Ainsle. Don't forget to check out Malvern Bank Super Late Model 2018 season. We'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you white knuckle racing by the river bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
The official watering hole of the Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Soon the flowers will be blooming, and we'll all be busy enjoying the beautiful Midwest spring. With the arrival of spring, we all know ridiculous summer heat is just around the corner. A simple preventative maintenance plan from Eccles Heating and Cooling can make sure you're as cool as a cucumber during the hot summer months. Call Pat today for your preventative maintenance plan or ask about a new energy-efficient Tempstar HVAC. Eccles Heating and Cooling is there for you at 402-331-1755.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.